The throne room of the Valtros Dominion stretched across an entire city block. Massive pillars of black stone reached toward a ceiling that glowed with captured starlight. At the center of this vast chamber sat High Overlord Thraxos, his forearms resting on the armrests of his command throne. Around him stood his war council, waiting for his decision. A holographic display floated in the air before them. It showed a small section of space near the edge of the galaxy. Tiny blue dots represented human colonies. Red dots showed Valtros fleets. There were far more red dots. "They refuse our demands," one of the council members said. His voice carried contempt. "The humans claim these outer worlds belong to them. They say we have no right to expand into their territory." Thraxos leaned forward slightly. His eyes, all 6 of them, focused on the display. "How many ships do they have?" "Intelligence reports 1 fleet, High Overlord. Perhaps 50 vessels. They call it their United Fleet." The council member made a gesture that meant amusement in Valtros culture. "We have 12 fleets. Over 2,000 warships." Another council member spoke up. "They have sent an ultimatum. They demand we withdraw from the outer colonies or face military action." Several members of the council made clicking sounds with their mouths. It was Valtros laughter. Thraxos stood. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall. His ceremonial armor caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns. "These humans are children playing with toys. They have existed in space for what? 200 of their years? We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000. He walked to the holographic display and waved one hand through it. The image changed to show the Valtros military strength. Fleet after fleet appeared in the projection. Each one contained hundreds of ships. "Send Fleetmaster Carvex with the 3rd Fleet," Thraxos commanded. 180 ships should be more than enough to crush their entire species. "Tell Carvex to make it quick. I want this irritation removed before the seasonal ceremonies." "Yes, High Overlord." The council members bowed and began filing out of the throne room. Thraxos returned to his seat and activated a private communication channel. Fleetmaster Carvex's face appeared in a small hologram. "You have your orders, Fleetmaster. Eliminate the human presence in the outer colonies. Show them what happens when primitives challenge the Dominion." Carvex bowed his head. "It will be done, High Overlord." "Should I accept their surrender if they offer it?" Thraxos considered for a moment. "If they kneel immediately, yes. Take their leaders as slaves. But if they show any resistance, destroy them. Leave 1 colony intact so they can spread word of what defying us brings." "Understood, High Overlord." The communication ended. Thraxos sat back in his throne and closed his eyes. Another conquered species. Another expansion of Valtros territory. It was the way things had always been. The strong ruled. The weak served or died. These humans would learn this truth soon enough. Far across the galaxy at Jericho Station, Admiral Park Minji stood in the observation deck and watched her fleet assemble. 53 ships. That was everything humanity had for deep space combat. Every other vessel was assigned to defend the colonies or patrol trade routes. This was it. This was all Earth could send. She was a small woman, barely reaching 160 centimeters, but her presence filled any room she entered. Her uniform was crisp and perfect. Her short black hair was streaked with gray. She had spent 30 years in the Earth Defense Force, working her way up from a fighter pilot to the supreme commander of humanity's military. Behind her, Captain Han Jiwoo approached. He was younger, in his early 30s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He commanded the flagship Indomitable, humanity's most powerful warship. It was not really that powerful compared to what other species had, but it was the best humans could build. "Admiral," he said, saluting, "all ships have reported in. We're ready to move on your command." Park turned to face him. "Have you read the intelligence reports on the Valtros?" "Yes, ma'am. They have shields that have never been penetrated. Their weapons outrange ours by at least 30%. They have more ships, more experience, and more resources." He paused. "The analysts give us less than 5% chance of victory in direct combat." Park smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Good. I'm glad you understand what we're facing. Now let me tell you why we're going to win anyway." She activated a display on the wall. It showed the Valtros military formation. Neat rows of ships, perfect spacing, textbook tactics. The Valtros have conquered 400 star systems. They've defeated countless species. They've never lost a major battle. Park tapped the display. "Do you know why?" Han shook his head. "Because every species they've fought has tried to beat them at their own game. Bigger ships, More firepower. Head-to-head battles. Park's smile grew. We're not going to do that. We're going to do what humans do best. We're going to adapt. We're going to improvise. We're going to make them fight our kind of war. The weapon system Dr. Kang has been developing? Project Cascade, yes. Park pulled up another display. It showed complex equations and energy patterns. Kang believes he's found a weakness in their shield technology, a harmonic frequency that causes feedback loops. If he's right, we can disable their shields long enough to hit them with conventional weapons. Han studied the display. If he's right. That's a big if, Admiral. It is. But we don't have a choice, do we? The Valtros sent their demands. Surrender or be destroyed. Give them access to our colonies, our resources, our people. Park's voice hardened. I didn't spend 3 decades protecting humanity to hand it over to some alien empire because they think they're stronger than us. No, ma'am. Park walked to the window again and looked out at the fleet. Each ship represented thousands of crew members. Each crew member had families, hopes, dreams. She was about to lead them into a battle they might not survive. Captain Han, I need you to understand something. This is not about winning, not yet. This is about showing them that we won't roll over. That humanity will fight. That conquering us will cost them more than they ever imagined. I understand, Admiral. Do you? Because I'm about to send your ship, your crew, directly into the teeth of their fleet. The Indomitable will lead the vanguard. You'll take the most risk. You'll face the most danger. Han straightened. Then we'll hit them the hardest. The crew of the Indomitable volunteered for this mission, Admiral. Every single one of them. They know what we're facing. They know the odds. And they're ready. Park nodded slowly. Then get to your ship, Captain. We move out in 2 hours. The Valtros are gathering at the Threshold Nebula. That's where we'll meet them. That's where we'll show them what one fleet can do. Han saluted and turned to leave. As he reached the door, Park spoke again. Captain, there's an old Earth saying, David versus Goliath. Do you know it? The small fighter who defeated the giant. Yes, ma'am. The Valtros are Goliath, we're David, and we're about to throw our stone. Park's voice carried absolute certainty. Make it count. Han nodded and left. Park stood alone in the observation deck watching the fleet. In the distance, she could see repair crews working on damaged hull plating, supply ships moving between the larger vessels, fighter squadrons running practice drills. Her personal communicator buzzed. It was Dr. Kang Hyun from the Indomitable. Admiral, I have the final test results on Project Cascade. And? It works. In simulations, it works perfectly. Against actual Valtros shield, he paused. We'll find out soon enough. That's good enough, Doctor. Finish the installation on all ships. We need every advantage we can get. Yes, Admiral. There's one more thing. The Valtros Fleetmaster, Carvex. He sent a message. It's broadcasting on all frequencies. He wants us to hear it. Play it. A harsh voice filled the room. It spoke in heavily accented human language. Attention, human vessels. I am Fleetmaster Carvex of the Valtros Third Fleet. You have entered territory claimed by the Dominion. You have refused to surrender. This is your final warning. One fleet cannot defeat us. You will die here unless you surrender immediately. You have 1 hour to respond. The message ended. Park stood in silence for a long moment. Then she activated her own communication channel. Fleet-wide broadcast. All ships, this is Admiral Park. You've all heard the Valtros message. They think one fleet can't defeat them. They think we'll surrender because they have more ships, better weapons, and a 1,000-year history of conquest. She paused. They're wrong. Not about their strength. They are stronger. But they're wrong about us. They don't understand humanity. They don't understand that we've never backed down from a fight. That we've always found a way to win when everyone counted us out. They think this is going to be easy. Let's show them how wrong they are. All ships prepare for combat. We move to the Threshold Nebula in 1 hour. Park out. She closed the channel and looked out at the fleet one more time. Somewhere out there, past the nebula, the Valtros Third Fleet waited. 180 ships against 53. The odds were terrible. The situation was desperate. Victory seemed impossible. Admiral Park Minji smiled. Humanity had faced impossible odds before. It was time to do it again. The Threshold Nebula looked beautiful from a distance. Clouds of purple and blue gas stretched across thousands of kilometers. Inside those clouds, ionized particles played havoc with sensors and communications. It was the perfect place for an ambush. It was also the perfect place to hide. Fleetmaster Karvek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant Will. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of all 180 ships in his fleet. They had just emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Every ship exactly where it should be. Every weapon system ready. Every shield at full power. Scan the nebula, Karvek ordered. Find the human ships. His sensor officer worked the controls. The interference is severe, Fleetmaster. I'm detecting multiple contacts but cannot confirm exact numbers or positions. The humans chose their ground well. Karvek made a dismissive gesture. It doesn't matter where they hide. We have enough firepower to cleanse every cubic meter of that cloud. Prepare to advance. All ships, combat formation Delta. We'll sweep through the nebula and destroy anything we find. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Han Jiwoo watched the Valtros fleet on his tactical display. Even through the nebula's interference, their signatures were clear. So many ships, so much firepower. They're forming up for a sweep, Lieutenant Choi Subin reported from the tactical station. She was young but brilliant, with reflexes faster than anyone Han had ever seen. Standard Valtros doctrine. Overlapping fields of fire. They'll try to flush us out. Han turned to look at Dr. Kang Hyun, who stood near the weapons console. The scientist looked nervous. His hands shook slightly as he checked his equipment. Doctor, is Project Cascade ready? Kang nodded. All ships have the emitters installed. The targeting network is synchronized. But Captain, you need to understand. This has never been tested in actual combat. The simulations worked, but real Valtros shields might behave differently. If the harmonic frequency is off by even a fraction, the whole thing could fail. Will it work or not, Doctor? Kang took a deep breath. I believe it will work. I have to believe it will work. Because if it doesn't, we're all dead. Han's communicator buzzed. Admiral Park's face appeared on a small screen. All ships, this is Admiral Park. The Valtros are advancing. Remember the plan. Wait for my signal. We get one shot at this. Make it count. Stay focused, stay calm. And remember why we're here. For Earth, for humanity. For everyone counting on us to stand up to these bullies. Park out, the communication ended. Han looked around his bridge. Every crew member was at their station. Every face showed determination mixed with fear. They all knew the odds. They all knew this might be their last day alive. And they were all still here, ready to fight. All stations report ready, Captain, Subin said. Then we wait, Han replied. Let them come to us. The Valtros fleet entered the nebula in waves. The first group consisted of 40 cruisers, spreading out in a search pattern. Behind them came the heavy battleships ready to provide support. Fleetmaster Karvek remained in the center of his formation, commanding from his flagship. Contacts, the Valtros sensor officer suddenly shouted. Multiple human ships bearing 270, range 30,000 kilometers, Karvek smiled. Launch the attack. First wave, engage the enemy. Show them what happens when primitives challenge the Dominion. The 40 Valtros cruisers accelerated toward the human fleet, their weapons charged. Their shields glowed with power. They had done this 1,000 times before against 100 different species. The humans would break and run like all the others, or they would die. On the Indomitable, alarms sounded as the Valtros ships approached. Enemy vessels closing fast, Subin reported. Weapons range in 30 seconds. Han activated the fleet channel. All ships hold position, hold fire. Wait for the Admiral's command. The seconds ticked by. 20, 15, 10. The Valtros ships were close now. Close enough that their weapons could tear the human fleet apart. 5 seconds to their optimal firing range, Subin said. Her voice was steady, but her knuckles were white on her console. All ships. Admiral Park's voice came over the channel. Activate Project Cascade now. Dr. Kang slammed his hand down on the control. Cascade active, firing. Every human ship fired simultaneously. But these weren't normal weapons. Electromagnetic pulse torpedoes streaked across space toward the Valtros fleet. They didn't explode on impact. Instead, they detonated just before reaching the shields, releasing precisely tuned energy waves. For a moment, nothing happened. The Valtros shields absorbed the energy as designed. Then the harmonic feedback began. The shield started to resonate. The energy waves bounced back and forth, amplifying with each pass. The shield generators tried to compensate, but the feedback loop was too fast, too powerful. One by one, the Valtros shields began to overload. On the Dominant Will, Karvek stared at his displays in disbelief. What's happening? Why are the shields failing? Unknown, Fleetmaster. The human weapons created some kind of cascade effect. The shields are experiencing catastrophic feedback. I can't stop it. The first Valtros cruiser's shield collapsed completely. A human railgun shot punched through its hull, tearing it open. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship spun out of control, dead in the water. Then another shield failed, and another. Within seconds, 20 of the 40 attacking cruisers were completely vulnerable. All ships fire at will, Admiral Park commanded. Hit them while they're exposed. The human fleet opened up with everything they had. Railguns fired solid projectiles at incredible speed. Missiles streaked across the gap. Laser batteries added their fire to the barrage. The Valtros ships, designed to fight behind powerful shields, had relatively weak armor. Without their shields, they were helpless. Explosions bloomed across space. Valtros cruisers broke apart under the assault. Some tried to retreat, some tried to return fire. But the cascade effect had spread through their entire formation, shield generators overloading one after another. Impossible, Carvex roared. This is impossible, retreat. All ships fall back beyond the nebula. Reform at Rally Point Delta. The Valtros fleet turned and ran. Behind them, 35 of their cruisers drifted as debris. The humans had lost only 2 ships. On the Indomitable, the bridge crew erupted in cheers. Dr. Kang collapsed into a chair, shaking with relief. It worked. It actually worked. Han allowed himself a small smile. Lieutenant Subin, deploy our sensor drones. Track where they're going. They'll try to regroup and adapt. We need to know where and how. Already on it, Captain, Subin replied, her fingers flying over her console. Admiral Park's face appeared on the communication screen again. Excellent work, all ships. But don't celebrate yet. We hurt them, but we didn't destroy them. They still have over 140 ships. And now they know we can bypass their shields. They'll adapt. They'll change their tactics. And they'll come at us again, angrier and more careful. She was right. The celebration on the bridge died down quickly. They had won the first engagement, but the war was far from over. All ships were going on the offensive, Park continued. We're not going to wait for them to regroup and adapt. We're going to press our advantage. Captain Han, your ship will lead the pursuit. Find them, hit them, keep them off balance. Don't give them time to think. Understood, Admiral, Han replied. The communication ended. Han turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral. Helm, plot a pursuit course. Weapons, reload all tubes. Engineering, I need maximum power to engines and weapons. We're going hunting. The Indomitable accelerated out of the nebula, followed by the rest of the human fleet. Behind them, the debris of Valtros ships drifted in the purple clouds. Thousands of light years away, High Overlord Thraxos received Fleet Master Carvex's report. He read it 3 times, unable to believe what he was seeing. 35 ships destroyed. The humans had some kind of weapon that bypassed Valtros shields. The 3rd fleet was in retreat. Impossible, Thraxos said aloud. One fleet cannot defeat us. It must be some kind of trick. A lucky shot. He activated his communication array and began composing orders. The humans had won one battle through surprise and cunning. But the Dominion had resources they couldn't imagine. Ships they couldn't count. Warriors who had conquered the galaxy while humanity was still learning to make fire. Thraxos would send more fleets. Better commanders. He would crush these humans personally if necessary. They had embarrassed the Dominion. That could not stand. But for the first time in his long rule, a small seed of doubt planted itself in Thraxos's mind. The humans had done something no other species had managed in 10,000 years. They had made the Valtros shields fail. They had forced a Dominion fleet to retreat. Perhaps these humans were more dangerous than he thought. On the Indomitable, Lieutenant Subin looked up from her console. Captain, our drones have located the Valtros fleet. They're regrouping at a dwarf star system, 40 light years from here. And sir, there's something else. What is it, Lieutenant? Long-range sensors are picking up hyperspace signatures, big ones. Multiple fleets jumping into this sector. Subin's face went pale. Sir, the Valtros aren't just sending reinforcements. They're sending an armada. Han felt his stomach drop. They had won one battle. Now the real war was about to begin. Get me Admiral Park, he said quietly. She needs to know. The Valtros are coming, and they're bringing everything they have. High Overlord Thraxos paced across his throne room floor, his forearms clenched and unclenched with barely controlled rage. Around him, his war council stood silent, afraid to speak. They had all seen the reports. They had all watched the battle recordings. The 3rd Fleet humiliated, 35 ships destroyed, Forced to retreat by a handful of human vessels. Summon Grand Marshal Venix, Thraxos said finally. His voice was cold, controlled. That was worse than rage. When Thraxos was calm, people died. I want him here immediately. One of the council members bowed and hurried from the room. The others waited, barely daring to breathe. Grand Marshal Venix arrived within the hour. He was older than most Valtros military commanders, with scars covering his arms and face. He had fought in over 200 campaigns and never lost a single one. Species across the galaxy told stories of Venix's ruthlessness. Planets surrendered when they heard he was coming rather than face his wrath. High Overlord, Venix said, bowing his head slightly. You summoned me. I am giving you command of 4 additional fleets, Thraxos said without preamble. 700 ships to add to the 3rd Fleet's remaining forces. I want the humans destroyed, not defeated, not conquered, destroyed. Every ship, every colony, every trace of their existence burned away. Venix's eyes gleamed. It will be done, High Overlord. But I need to understand what happened at Threshold Nebula. How did they bypass our shields? Thraxos gestured and a holographic recording appeared. It showed the human attack, the electromagnetic pulses, the cascade effect that had destroyed the shields. Venix watched in silence, his tactical mind analyzing every detail. Clever, Venix said when it finished. They found a weakness we didn't know existed. But now that we know about it, we can adapt. Modify the shield frequencies. Add backup generators. This trick will not work a second time. See that it doesn't. Take the 2nd, 4th, 7th, and 9th fleets. Find the humans. Destroy them. Make an example so terrible that no other species ever dares to challenge us again. Venix bowed. As you command, High Overlord. Admiral Park stood in the operations center aboard Jericho Station studying the tactical map. Red icons representing Valtros fleets were appearing all across the sector. 4 new fleets had joined the survivors from the 3rd Fleet. Over 700 ships now hunted her 51 remaining vessels. Captain Han entered the operations center and saluted. Admiral, you wanted to see me. Park nodded and gestured to the map. We have a problem, Captain. Actually, we have several problems. The Valtros are bringing in massive reinforcements. They're adapting their shield frequencies, which means Project Cascade will be less effective, and they've put Grand Marshal Venix in command. I've heard of him, Han said quietly. The Butcher of Calaris, the Destroyer of Worlds. He doesn't accept surrender. He doesn't take prisoners. No, he doesn't, which means we're fighting for survival now, not just victory, survival. Park touched the map and it zoomed in on several human colonies. We can't protect everything with one fleet. We don't have the ships. We don't have the resources. So we're going to change tactics. She split the fleet display into smaller groups. I'm dividing our forces into hunter-killer squadrons. Small fast groups that can hit and run. We'll attack supply convoys, mine hyperspace lanes, ambush patrol groups. We can't fight them head-on anymore. We have to make them bleed for every inch of space. Han studied the new formation. We'll be vulnerable. If they catch one of our squadrons alone, they'll destroy it. I know, but it's the only way. We hurt them at Threshold Nebula because they underestimated us. They won't make that mistake again. So we have to be unpredictable, dangerous, make them afraid to spread out but also unable to protect everything if they stay together. Park turned to face Han directly. I'm giving you command of Strike Group Alpha, 6 ships including the Indomitable. Your mission is to hunt Valtros supply lines in the outer colonies, cut off their fuel, their ammunition, their food, make them hungry and desperate. What about you, Admiral? I'll coordinate from here with the main fleet. But most of my ships will be in small groups like yours spread across the sector. Park's expression hardened. This is going to get worse before it gets better, Captain. We're going to lose ships. We're going to lose people. The casualty rate is going to be terrible. But if we can hold on long enough, if we can make conquering us more expensive than the Valtros are willing to pay, we might survive this. And if we can't? Park was silent for a moment. Then Earth falls, and humanity becomes another footnote in Valtros history, another conquered species. Over the next 3 weeks, space became a hunting ground. Captain Han's Strike Group Alpha ambushed a Valtros supply convoy, destroying 12 transport ships before vanishing into a nearby asteroid field. Lieutenant Choi Subin, now commanding her own small group, mined a hyperspace corridor and crippled an entire Valtros patrol fleet when they jumped into the trap. Other human squadrons struck at fuel depots, communication relays, and isolated outposts. But the Valtros adapted. Grand Marshal Venix studied the human tactics and began implementing countermeasures. He sent out decoy convoys to lure human ships into ambushes. He stationed heavy battle groups near key supply routes. He modified Valtros shields to resist the cascade effect. The human casualty rate climbed. 10 ships lost, 15, 20. Every victory came at a terrible price. On the Indomitable, Dr. Kang worked desperately to improve Project Cascade. The Valtros shield modifications were making it less effective. What had been a devastating weapon was now only partially successful. He needed a breakthrough, and he needed it fast. Captain Han found him in the laboratory at 3 in the morning, surrounded by holographic displays and empty coffee containers. "Doctor, when was the last time you slept?" Kang looked up, his eyes red and exhausted. "Sleep? Captain, our people are dying because my weapon doesn't work anymore. The Valtros adapted faster than I expected. Every day, Project Cascade becomes less effective. Every day, we lose our advantage." "How can I sleep?" Han sat down across from him. "Because if you collapse from exhaustion, we lose our best chance at finding a solution. You're no good to anyone if you burn yourself out." Kang laughed bitterly. "A solution, yes, I need a solution. But I'm running out of ideas, Captain. The cascade effect was brilliant because it exploited a fundamental flaw in their shield design. But they've patched that flaw. They've added redundancies. They've changed frequencies. I can still disrupt their shields, but I can't collapse them anymore. Not reliably. Then we need something new, something they won't expect." "Like what? What could possibly surprise them now? They know about our railguns, our missiles, our tactics. They've seen everything we have." Kang slumped in his chair. "We had one advantage and it's gone." Han was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Show me the latest battle recordings. All of them." They spent the next 2 hours reviewing every engagement. Han watched carefully, noting how the Valtros responded, how they adapted, how they fought. Finally, he saw something. "There," Han said, pointing at a display. "That battle 3 days ago. Sobin's group engaged a Valtros patrol. The Valtros shields held against Project Cascade. But look at what happened when 2 of our ships fired on the same target simultaneously." Kang replayed the sequence. 2 human ships had attacked 1 Valtros vessel at exactly the same moment. The shields had flickered, showing a brief moment of instability before recovering. "I see it," Kang said slowly. "The shields are designed to handle attacks from multiple directions. But when 2 cascade pulses hit at the exact same microsecond, there's interference. The redundancies don't activate fast enough. Can you weaponize that?" Kang's exhausted expression transformed into something approaching hope. "Maybe. If I can synchronize the firing sequences across multiple ships, create a network where they all fire in perfect coordination. The timing would have to be exact. We're talking microsecond precision across light-second distances. But yes, maybe it might work. Then get some sleep, Doctor. You have 6 hours. Then I need you to start building this network. Because in 3 days we have a mission. Intelligence reports that the Valtros are gathering their entire force at the gateway system. They're planning to use it as a staging ground for an invasion of Earth." Kang stood up quickly. "Earth? They're going straight for Earth?" "Venix wants to end this war. He's going to mass his entire fleet and smash through our defenses in one overwhelming attack. Admiral Park has decided we're not going to let him set up that attack. We're going to hit the gateway system first, all of our remaining ships. One last offensive strike. Captain, that's suicide. The gateway system will be heavily defended. If they're using it as a staging ground, they'll have hundreds of ships there." Han nodded. "Over 900 ships according to our intelligence. Against our 31 operational vessels. Then we can't possibly win. Probably not. But we can hurt them. We can disrupt their plans. We can buy Earth more time to prepare defenses." Han stood and headed for the door. "Get some rest, Doctor. In 3 days, we're going to need your miracle network to work perfectly. Because if it doesn't, we're all going to die trying." After Han left, Kang stood alone in his laboratory. 900 Valtros ships, 31 human ships. The gateway system was exactly what its name suggested. A star system with multiple stable hyperspace routes, making it the perfect staging ground for military operations. 3 rocky planets orbited the central star, and the Valtros had converted them all into military bases. Shipyards floated in orbit. Supply stations dotted the space between worlds, and everywhere warships. Over 900 Valtros vessels filled the system like a swarm of angry insects. Grand Marshal Venix stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment, and surveyed his armada with satisfaction. Every ship was in position. Every system was ready. In 2 days, they would jump to Earth and end this war in one crushing blow. The humans would finally learn their place. Grand Marshal, his communications officer, said, "We're detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple contacts. They're jumping into the system." Venix turned to look at the tactical display. Human ships. Dozens of them. They were emerging from hyperspace directly in the center of his fleet. For a moment, Venix couldn't believe what he was seeing. The humans were attacking. Here, now. They were jumping directly into the middle of 900 Valtros warships. "It's a suicide attack," Venix said aloud. "They know they can't win. This is desperation." He activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, combat alert. Destroy the human vessels. Show them what happens when primitives challenge the Dominion. Today we end this war." The human fleet emerged from hyperspace in a tight formation. 31 ships. Captain Han counted them on his tactical display. That was everyone. Every operational human warship in the sector. This was it. This was humanity's final throw of the dice. "Dr. Kang, is your network ready?" Han asked. Kang's hands moved across his console, checking readings. "The synchronization network is active. All ships are linked. But Captain, I need you to understand. This has never been tested in combat. The timing needs to be perfect across all ships. If even one vessel fires out of sequence, the whole network could collapse." "Will it work or not, Doctor?" Kang took a deep breath. "I believe it will work. But we'll only get a few shots. Once the Valtros understand what we're doing, they'll adapt. We need to make those shots count." Admiral Park's voice came over the fleet channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Park. You all know the mission. We're here to disrupt their staging ground, to destroy enough ships that they can't invade Earth. We're not here to survive. We're here to win, and if we have to die to protect Earth, then we die fighting. All ships engage at will. For humanity." The human fleet split into 3 groups and accelerated toward the Valtros formations. Behind them, more than 900 enemy ships turned to face them. Grand Marshal Venix watched the human ships approach and opened a communication channel. He broadcast on all frequencies, knowing the humans would hear him. "Admiral Park, I know you can hear me. This is madness. You have 31 ships. I have over 900. You cannot win. You cannot even survive. I am offering you one final chance. Surrender now. Order your ships to stand down. I will spare your crews. You have my word as Grand Marshal of the Valtros Dominion." On the indomitable Admiral Park listened to Venix's offer. For a long moment she was silent. Then she activated her own communication channel, broadcasting her response not just to Venix but to every ship in the system, human and Valtros alike. "Grand Marshal Venix, you asked one fleet to surrender, one fleet to kneel before your empire. Let me tell you what one fleet is going to do instead. We're going to show you something you've never seen in 10,000 years of conquest. We're going to show you what happens when you threaten Earth. What happens when you underestimate humanity. One fleet can't defeat you. Watch us try." She closed the channel. On the Indomitable's bridge, every crew member cheered. Captain Han felt a surge of pride. This was why they fought. Not because victory was guaranteed, but because some things were worth fighting for no matter the odds. "All weapons, prepare to fire on my command," Han ordered. "Dr. Kang, activate the network." "Network active," Kang reported. "All ships synchronized. We're ready." The Valtros fleet opened fire first. Thousands of energy weapons created a web of destruction across space. The human ships scattered, their smaller size and greater maneuverability helping them dodge the initial barrage. But they couldn't dodge everything. A human destroyer took a direct hit and exploded. Then a frigate. Then a cruiser. "We're losing ships." Lieutenant Subin called out from her station on another vessel. "We need to hit them back." "Wait for it," Admiral Park commanded over the fleet channel. "Let them commit. Let them think they're winning. Dr. Kang, on my mark, activate Project Cascade synchronized mode. 3, 2, 1 mark." All 31 human ships fired simultaneously. But this wasn't like before. This time the electromagnetic pulses were perfectly synchronized, arriving at their targets at the exact same microsecond. The Valtros shields flickered and died, not just on a few ships, on dozens of them. Over 100 Valtros vessels suddenly found themselves completely vulnerable. "All ships, conventional weapons, fire," Park commanded. The human fleet unleashed everything they had. Railgun rounds tore through Valtros hulls. Missiles streaked across space and detonated against exposed armor. Laser batteries cut through ship after ship. Within minutes, 50 Valtros vessels were destroyed or crippled. On the Eternal Judgment, Grand Marshal Venix stared at his displays in shock. 50 ships. They had destroyed 50 ships in the opening salvo. How was this possible? Analysis. He barked at his science officer. What did they do? They synchronized their cascade weapons, Grand Marshal, all firing at the exact same moment. Our shield redundancies couldn't activate fast enough. The interference pattern was too strong. Venix's mind raced. The humans had adapted. They had improved their weapon. But they had also revealed their strategy. He could counter this. All ships implement shield frequency rotation. Random patterns make it impossible for them to synchronize and activate the tactical jamming network. If they can't communicate, they can't coordinate their attacks. Across the Valtros fleet, shields began shifting frequencies randomly. Electronic warfare systems activated, flooding the communication channels with interference. The human coordination network began to break down. On the Indomitable, Dr. Kang watched his systems fail. Captain, they're jamming us. The network is losing synchronization. We can't coordinate the attacks anymore. Han cursed under his breath. Switch to Plan Beta. All ships target the command carrier. Focus everything on Venix's flagship. If we can take out their leader, the fleet will lose coordination. The Indomitable turned and accelerated toward the Eternal Judgment. Behind it, the remaining human ships followed. They were down to 26 vessels now. The Valtros counterattack had been devastating. Venix saw them coming. They're targeting the flagship. Defensive formation Gamma. Protect the Eternal Judgment. Do not let them through. 200 Valtros ships moved to intercept the human assault. Energy weapons filled space with deadly light. Human ships twisted and dodged, but there was nowhere to hide. Another destroyer exploded. A cruiser, its engines destroyed, drifted helplessly before a Valtros battleship finished it off. But the human fleet kept coming. Kept pushing forward. Railguns fired continuously. Missiles launched in waves. The Indomitable took hit after hit, its armor melting, its shields failing, but it kept moving forward. Captain Han gripped his command chair as the ship shook from another impact. All power to forward weapons. Everything we have. Dr. Kang, I need one more cascade pulse. I don't care if the emitters burn out. Give me one more shot at that flagship. Kang's fingers flew across his console. Rerouting power. I can give you one pulse, but it will overload the entire system. We won't get a second chance. One is all we need. Fire! The Indomitable fired its final synchronized cascade pulse, joined by the 5 remaining ships closest to it. The combined electromagnetic wave hit the Eternal Judgment's shields. For a moment they held. Then they flickered. Then they died. Now. All weapons! Han shouted. Every gun on the Indomitable fired at once. Railgun rounds punched through the flagship's exposed hull. Missiles detonated against its superstructure. The Eternal Judgment staggered under the assault. On the Valtros flagship's bridge, alarms blared. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Engineering reports critical damage. Shield generators are offline. Grand Marshal Venix refused to accept defeat. Return fire. Destroy that ship. Kill them all. But the Indomitable wasn't alone. Lieutenant Subin's ship, a small frigate barely holding together, rammed itself into the Eternal Judgment's engine section. The frigate exploded, but the detonation crippled the flagship's propulsion system. Boarding action, Han commanded. All available crew, arm yourselves. We're taking that ship. Marines poured from the Indomitable into the breached sections of the Eternal Judgment. What followed was brutal close-quarters combat through corridors and compartments. The Valtros fought back desperately, but human determination drove them back, deck by deck, section by section. Han led his own boarding party toward the bridge. They fought through resistance, losing people with every step, but they kept moving forward. Always forward. Finally, they reached the flagship's command center. The doors were sealed, reinforced, designed to resist boarding actions. Han didn't care. 3 months had passed since the Gateway System battle. Earth had used every second of that time to prepare. Every orbital station now bristled with weapons. Every satellite had been converted into a defensive platform. Civilian ships had been retrofitted with missiles and railguns. The entire solar system had become a fortress. But it might not be enough. Captain Han stood on what remained of the Indomitable's bridge and looked at the tactical display. The ship had been patched together with spare parts and desperate engineering. Half its weapon systems were offline. The engines operated at 70% capacity. The armor was full of holes covered with temporary plating. But it was still flying. Still fighting. Around Earth, the remnants of humanity's united fleet waited. 12 warships. That was all that remained operational from the Gateway System battle. Behind them, thousands of civilian vessels formed defensive lines. Mining ships, cargo haulers, colony transports, all crewed by volunteers. People who refused to run. People who had decided to fight. Long-range sensors are detecting hyperspace signatures, Lieutenant Choi Subin reported. She had survived the Gateway System battle, though her ship had not. Now she served as Han's tactical officer again. Sir, it's massive. Multiple fleet signatures. Admiral Park's face appeared on the communication screen. She looked older than she had 3 months ago. The strain of the war showed in her eyes. All ships, this is Admiral Park. They're here. The Valtros are making their final push. We don't know exactly how many ships they're bringing, but intelligence suggests it's everything they have left. This is it, the last battle. If we win, Earth survives. If we lose, humanity falls. But whatever happens, we make them remember us. We make them pay for every meter of space, for every life they take. Are you ready? Across the fleet, across the thousands of civilian vessels, across every defensive platform, the response came back. Yes, we're ready. We will not surrender. The Valtros fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Han's tactical display lit up with red icons. Hundreds of them. Over 1,000 ships. High Overlord Thraxos had brought his 6 remaining fleets. Everything the Dominion had left after the Gateway System disaster. A communication channel opened. Thraxos's face appeared on every screen across the human defensive network. He was enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, his 6 eyes burning with hatred. Humans, Thraxos said, his voice filled with contempt. I am High Overlord Thraxos, ruler of the Valtros Dominion. You have defied us. You have destroyed our ships. You have captured our commanders. No species has ever dared what you have dared. For that, I would normally order your complete extermination, but I am not without mercy. He paused, letting his words sink in. Surrender now. Order your ships to stand down. Open your defensive networks. If you do this immediately, I will spare most of your population. You will become servants of the Dominion, yes, but you will live. Refuse, and I will personally ensure that nothing human survives. Not your ships, not your colonies, not even the memory of your species. You have 1 hour to respond. The communication ended. Silence filled the Indomitable's bridge. Outside the viewports, Earth hung in space, blue and beautiful. 7 billion people lived on that planet. Countless more in the colonies scattered across human space. All of them waiting to see what would happen. Admiral Park opened a private channel to Captain Han. Captain, I need your honest assessment. Can we win? Han looked at the tactical display. Over 1,000 Valtros ships versus 12 military vessels and a few thousand armed civilian craft. The odds were worse than impossible. No, Admiral. We can't win. Not in any conventional sense. Park nodded slowly. That's what I thought too. So let me ask you a different question. Can we hurt them badly enough that they remember? Can we make conquering Earth so expensive that other species see it and think twice before threatening humanity? Han smiled grimly. Yes, Admiral. We can do that. If we're willing to pay the price, then that's what we'll do. Park's expression hardened. Prepare to transmit my response to the Valtros fleet. A moment later, Admiral Park's face appeared on every screen in the solar system. Human and Valtros alike would hear her words. High Overlord Thraxos, you asked us to surrender. You told us that one fleet couldn't defeat you. You've said that before. You were wrong then. You're wrong now. But let me explain something you've never understood. We're not just a fleet anymore. We're not soldiers and ships and weapons. We're humanity united. Every person in this system, military and civilian, has made a choice. We've chosen to fight. We've chosen freedom over slavery. We've chosen to stand together rather than kneel apart. You wanted to know what one fleet could do? Let me show you what 7 billion humans can do when they refuse to surrender. She closed the channel. Across the solar system, human ships began moving into position. The 12 military vessels took point. Behind them, the civilian armada spread out in defensive formations. And hidden among the asteroids on platforms scattered throughout the solar system, Dr. Kang's final project activated. On his flagship, High Overlord Thraxos watched the human response with disbelief. They refuse. After everything, After all I've shown them, they still refuse. He turned to his fleet commanders. Destroy them. All ships advance. Show these primitives what it means to defy the Dominion. I want Earth burning within the hour. The Valtros Armada began its advance. Over 1,000 ships moving in perfect formation. Their shields glowed with power, their weapons charged. This was the might of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. The human defensive fleet opened fire first. Railguns launched solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. Missiles streaked across space. The civilian ships fired everything they had, from improvised mass drivers to mining explosives strapped to rocket engines. It was chaos. It was desperate. It was magnificent. The Valtros shields absorbed most of the initial barrage. A few ships took damage, but the formation held. They returned fire, energy weapons creating a web of destruction across space. Human ships began dying. A destroyer exploded. 3 civilian transports disintegrated. The casualties mounted quickly. But the humans kept fighting, kept firing, kept pushing forward. Now, Dr. Kang, Admiral Park commanded. Throughout the solar system, hidden emitters activated simultaneously. Dr. Kang had spent 3 months preparing this moment. Project Cascade had been good. The synchronized network had been better. But this was his masterpiece. Every asteroid, every satellite, every piece of debris in the solar system had been equipped with cascade emitters. Thousands of them, all firing at once. The electromagnetic pulse that hit the Valtros fleet was like nothing they had ever experienced. Every ship's shields flickered simultaneously. The harmonic feedback cascaded through their entire formation. One by one, shields began to fail. Not just on a few ships, on hundreds of them.
Impossible!
Thraxos roared. How? How did they create such a massive network? On the Indomitable, Dr. Kang watched his creation work and allowed himself a tired smile. We had 3 months to prepare and an entire solar system to work with. You should have attacked sooner. With the Valtros shields down, the human weapons found their marks. Railgun rounds tore through exposed hulls. Missiles detonated against armor. Even the improvised weapons from civilian ships became deadly. A cargo hauler rammed itself into a Valtros battleship, both vessels exploding in a massive fireball. A mining ship fired its drilling laser at point-blank range, cutting a cruiser in half. The Valtros fleet staggered under the assault. Hundreds of ships were destroyed or disabled in the first minutes, but they were not defeated. They still had numbers. They still had firepower. They adapted, just as they had before, implementing shield frequency changes and backup systems. The battle became a brutal slugging match. Human ships died by the dozen. The civilian armada suffered terrible casualties. But they kept fighting. Every ship that fell took Valtros vessels with it. Every sacrifice bought Earth more time. Captain Han piloted the Indomitable directly into the heart of the Valtros formation. Around him, his bridge crew fought their stations, keeping the ship alive through pure skill and determination. Captain, Subin called out, I have a firing solution on the Valtros flagship, but we need to get closer. Much closer. Then we get closer, Han replied. All power to engines. Helm, plot an intercept course with Thraxos' flagship. We're going to ram them if we have to. The Indomitable accelerated toward the center of the Valtros fleet. Energy weapons hammered its shields. Armor melted and broke apart. But the ship kept going. Always forward. Always fighting. High Overlord Thraxos watched the human flagship approach and felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. This small vessel, barely holding together, was heading straight for him, and he could see in its trajectory that the humans were willing to die to reach him. All weapons focus on that ship. Destroy it, now! Every nearby Valtros vessel turned its weapons on the Indomitable. The human flagship disappeared in a storm of energy fire. For a moment it seemed destroyed. Then it emerged from the barrage, burning but still flying. Still coming. On the Indomitable's bridge, half the stations were offline. Fires burned in the corridors. The ship was dying, but it had enough left for one more attack.